If you like what you're about to hear, please consider leaving a review, or liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing on YouTube. I don't have a Patreon or enable ads for this, so if you really like Oldex, please do contact Games Workshop on social media or via email and tell them you want me to narrate their audiobooks for realsies. Oldex, Codex Chaos Space Marines, 4th edition, pages 40 to 44. Forces of Chaos, The Law, Part 4. Written by Gav Thorpe and Alessio Cavatore. Narrated by R.J. Bailey. With great thanks to Alistair for donating this copy of Codex Chaos Space Marines. Chaos Dreadnought. Dreadnoughts are giant bipedal armored war machines that fight alongside troops in battle. A dreadnought is piloted by a single crewman, installed in a fetal-like position at the dreadnought's heart and connected by nervous system implants and mind impulse units. Dreadnoughts provide invaluable support, blasting the enemy with heavy weapons or smashing opponents aside in hand-to-hand combat with gigantic claws and blades. The secrets of building dreadnoughts are incredibly old and virtually lost. Most of the dreadnoughts of the traitor legions date back to the Horus Heresy. It is rare for the veteran warrior entombed in a Space Marine dreadnought to turn renegade, though, on occasion, a dreadnought succumbs to battle psychosis built up over centuries, even millennia, of constant warfare. Dreadnoughts used by the Chaos Space Marines are truly ancient machines that have been salvaged and rebuilt many, many times over 100 centuries of warfare. While it is considered an honor amongst the loyalist Space Marines to be interred for eternity into a dreadnought, the Chaos Space Marines consider being consigned to a dreadnought as a living death, a torturous, mocking punishment from the dark gods. The Chaos Space Marines abhor the thought of a half-life locked away inside the imprisoning womb of a dreadnought, where they can no longer see battle with their own eyes or feel the kick of a bolter in their fist. For them, it is better to die and find final release in the surging maelstrom of the warp than spend eternity locked in an adamantium shell, fighting the long war as a maniacal machine. As a result, most Chaos Space Marine dreadnoughts are completely psychotic. A creeping insanity, mixed of fear and fury, has riddled their brains over the long millennia. Between battles, the sarcophagus containing the trapped body of the dreadnought pilot is disconnected and dragged clear of the dreadnought's armored shell. Even so, the dreadnought itself is kept chained like a beast when it is not actually fighting, for fear that some residual spark of the pilot's soul may remain within it and send it into a berserk rampage of death and mutilation. As the raiding ships of a Chaos Space Marine fleet approach their prey, the dreadnought's weapons are prepared and loaded, and its sarcophagus is installed. The madness of the interred Chaos Space Marine grows as he rises from his dormancy. It is at this point that the lunatic beast of flesh and metal is unleashed once more upon the enemy. Chaos Defiler. The origins of the war machines known as Defilers are shrouded in mystery. No one truly knows how they came into existence, but there are tantalizing clues and forgotten fragments of ancient texts that point to how such an affront came into being. Post-action reports and picked skull images have allowed Imperial strategos to piece together the nature of this diabolical creation. Standing on 6 mighty piston-driven limbs, the Defiler's body supports a demonic turret armed with an array of deadly weaponry, ranging from Reaper autocannons to racks of high-explosive missiles. A Defiler's most potent ranged armament is a battle cannon mounted in the turret, which is capable of blowing apart vehicles and destroying enemy squads with a single blast. Those foes fortunate to survive this barrage of shells must face the fury of the Defiler at close quarters. With two massive claws to grab and crush the enemy, and whirring blades of whip-like flails, the Defiler charges into the enemy and smashes aside all opposition as its mechanical growls echo over the cries of the wounded and dying. Unlike the battle tanks of the Imperial Guard and Space Marines, the Defiler is not operated by a human crew. Instead, a Defiler is fueled and guided by the warp energy of a bound demon of chaos. Using complex arcane rites, the adepts of the so-called Dark Mechanicus work with Chaos Space Marine sorcerers to draw forth the essence of a demon from the warp and trap it within the rune-bound hull of a Defiler. Enraged by this intrusion, the demon needs to be sedated with spells of appeasement and pacification, which are lifted at the start of battle. Its full immortal anger unleashed, the demon within drives the Defiler forward on its powerful legs, spewing death with its guns. It rejoices in battle, crushing the enemy with its monstrous claws and ripping apart everything in its path, all the while roaring inhumanly from its vox grills. Unconcerned for its survival, the bound demon ignores the blasts of missiles and detonations of shells against its armored hide, advancing through the heaviest fire without hesitation or fear. The Shadow Hive. Far out on the eastern fringe, at the very limits of the Astronomicon, lies the world of Bastonbeel. A night-shrouded hive world, Bastonbeel was a primary recruiting ground for the Death Falcon's Space Marine chapter. However, at the dawn of the 41st millennium, even as the Death Falcon's chapter master renewed his oaths to the Emperor at the conclave of Gathalamor, Bastonbeel fell. Something ancient and terrible rose from the underhive of Bastonbeel's capital, something that fed upon the souls of the living, devouring them in their millions. The Death Falcons responded in their entirety to destroy the mindless zombies left by the creature, and to hunt down the beast itself. It is not known what happened in those dark depths, but after 3 months, the Death Falcons were no more. Instead, the company of the Shadow emerged. Space Marines with grey armor that writhed with the faces of the damned stormed the upper reaches of the hive and overthrew the Imperial commander. Over the last 900 years, they have enslaved Bastonbeel, and from their dark base launched many bloody attacks against neighboring systems. Chaos Rhino. The Rhino is the ubiquitous transport vehicle of the Space Marines, and at the time of the Horus Heresy, each legion had access to hundreds of these armored vehicles. Its chassis is based on standard template construct design, meaning that it is relatively simple to build and maintain, and capable of using a variety of engines and fuels. These qualities have ensured that the Rhino has seen use over the length and breadth of the galaxy, and is almost as much a symbol of the mighty Adeptus Astartes as the bolt gun or power armor. Over the 10,000 years of the Long War, the Chaos Space Marines have continued to use the Rhino as their principal transport vehicle, allowing them to strike swiftly and precisely at their target. The Chaos Space Marines also loot rhinos from defeated enemies, defacing all Imperial insignia, attaching banners proclaiming their allegiance to the Chaos Gods, and festooning the vehicles with spikes, blades, and grisly trophies. Squads mounted in Chaos Rhinos can close rapidly with the enemy, protected from small arms fire, or they can swiftly redeploy to another part of the battlefield to outmaneuver their adversaries. A Chaos Rhino is often upgraded with short-ranged Havoc rocket launchers to turn it into a more powerful fighting vehicle. Scound's Fall. One of the most daring Chaos Space Marine raids took place on the planet of Scound's Fall, a mere 100 light-years from Terra. Having slipped through the Cadian Gate, a small flotilla of ships from the Night Lord's Legion spent months in the warp evading detection by Imperial patrols and pickets. Scound's Fall was chosen as a target because of its large Scholar Progenium Abbey. Here, future admirals, commissars, stormtroopers, and Sisters of Battle were housed and trained by the Ministorum. The viciousness of the Night Lord's attack left no survivors after 7 days of fighting, and butchered remains of both sides were laid out in talismanic patterns to help with the summoning of a demonic horde. Having gorged themselves on the souls and bodies of the Emperor's faithful, the demons rampaged across half the world while the Night Lords left, eluding the Imperial warships intent on their capture. For the Night Lords to have struck so decisively and so far from the Eye of Terror sent shockwaves through the military organization of the Segmentum Terra, and eventually led to the court-martial and penitent exile of Lord Commander Solar Jackson.
Cast down the idols! Destroy the temples! Slay the priests! Show these fools that they worship nothing more than a rotting corpse!
Dark Apostle Harzan of the Word-Bearers. Chaos Predator. The Predator is the main battle tank of the Space Marines, and can be fitted with different weapons, allowing for anti-armor operations, anti-infantry firepower, or a mixed role. Based upon the versatile Rhino chassis, the Predator has an armored turret that can sport an autocannon or las cannons, and can be further armed with the addition of side sponsons mounting extra heavy weaponry. By sacrificing all troop-carrying capacity, the Predator is also protected by a reinforced chassis within its armored plates. Chaos Predators are used to provide mobile support to fast-moving Chaos Space Marine attacks. Capable of laying down terrifying firepower, the Chaos Predator can eliminate enemy armor to pave the way for an infantry assault, or unleash a blaze of fire to decimate enemy squads attempting to counterattack. Frequently, the Predators used by the Chaos Space Marines have seen service for hundreds, if not thousands of years. They are embellished with horrific decorations, fluttering banners, demonic gargoyles, beast-headed weapon muzzles, and the icons of chaos, making them as much a statement of the Chaos Space Marines' hatred of the Imperium as a weapon of war. Chaos Vindicator. The Vindicator is another Space Marine vehicle based upon the Rhino standard template construct data. The Vindicator sacrifices its transport capacity in order to mount reinforced armor, additional internal bracing, and ammunition storage. This is needed for the massive demolisher cannon mounted on the front of the hull, supported by thick recoil suppressors. Protected by an enormous armored plate at the front, the Vindicator can move into position under intense enemy fire, approaching the walls of an enemy stronghold until its devastating armament is within range. The demolisher cannon fires a large-bore shell packed with high explosives. While it lacks the range of a standard battle cannon, the demolisher is more potent and can breach a city wall or obliterate a tank. It is ideal for leveling bunkers and fortifications, for blasting infantry out of trenches and foxholes, or for smashing through the gates of a citadel. Chaos Vindicators were used extensively by the traitor legions during the siege of the Imperial Palace, and have seen service in the legions and with renegade warbands all across the galaxy in the last 10,000 years. The Iron Warriors, the loyal followers of Perturabo, still field entire squadrons of Vindicators, emblazoned with Chaos symbols and adorned with the wreckage of fallen cities as trophies of victory. During the Dominion of Fire, 2 Chaos Vindicators belonging to the Brothers of Anarchy spearheaded the Chaos Space Marine attack on Fortress Secundex, battering their way through its 15-meter-thick rockcrete curtain wall over the course of 3 days. With a breach opened, the Brothers of Anarchy poured in, and the citadel fell within the next few hours. Chaos Land Raider. The Land Raider is the heaviest ground vehicle used by the Space Marines, and it is more akin to a mobile strongpoint than a battle tank. With equally heavy armor on its sides and rear, it can plow into the enemy army with virtual impunity, its thick adamantium and ceramite plates withstanding all but the deadliest anti-tank weaponry. The Land Raider's capacious hull can carry a full squad of Chaos Space Marines, or, more usually, a detachment of deadly Chaos Terminators. Once in position, a Land Raider opens its front assault ramp to disgorge its cargo of bloodthirsty warriors directly into combat with the foe, while providing supporting fire with its multiple weapon systems. Land Raiders are highly prized by the Chaos Space Marines, and their numbers are very limited. War Masters and Chaos Champions often use a Land Raider as their transport to proclaim their status and power, adorning their mechanical behemoth with large banners, decorating its hull with the bodies of the slain and symbols of the dark gods. With its las cannons blazing and enemy shots sparking harmlessly off its armored hull, a Land Raider is a bastion of strength that can spearhead an attack or form a mobile rallying point when in defense. Those dark arts named demomancy excel in the summoning, conjuration, exhortation, and control of diabolic entities from the immaterium. The demomancer knows the intonations, offerings, and promises that will gather the attention of these infernal phantasms. Through research study of the Kabbalistic formulae and liturgy, the impure celebrant can increase his influence over the great powers. With such increased power, the entreatment of diabolic forces becomes more secure, the response to pleas for treacherous reward greater. The black sorceries of demomancy rely upon certain elements, some physical, others spiritual. The offering of these components, in correct quantities and order, is paramount to demomancy. Blood, sweat, hair, bone, fear, loathing, and hatred are the ingredientia majoris, common to all conjurations and summonings. Dependent upon the nefarious power to be entreated, certain ingredientia minoris will also be required. Liber Maleficorum, of Demons and the Diabolic, Volume 3, 1227.
The revelation of spirit when encountering the power of chaos is as freeing for the machine as it is for the mortal mind. It is our duty to create this blessed state of union.
Teachings of Gaiac Cristellum, Dark Magos. You have been listening to Oldex, Codex Chaos Space Marines, 4th edition. Pages 40 to 44. Forces of Chaos. The Law. Part 4. Written by Gav Thorpe and Alessio Cavatore. Narrated by R.J. Bailey. With great thanks to Alistair for donating this copy of Codex Chaos Space Marines. Thank you to Gav Thorpe and Alessio Cavatore for writing the fiction I grew up with. If you've enjoyed this, please leave a review where you found it, or like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, depending how you're listening. I don't have a Patreon or enable ads for this, so if you really like Oldex, please do contact Games Workshop on social media or via email and tell them you want me to narrate their audiobooks for realsies. This production, like all of Oldex, is entirely unofficial and uncommercial, from an out-of-print publication, is a derivative work with all copyrights owned by Games Workshop, and is a celebration of the hobby and lore I grew up with. If you have suggestions for other old Codex fiction for me to narrate on this podcast, you can comment, contact me on Twitter at rjbailey, or email robertjbailey@gmail.com. Links are in the show description.